Hello, guys, and welcome back to Stretch Street Podcast. It's the energetic EJ. It's great to be back again on the show. I hope that you've had a great week so far, and I hope that you're looking forward to wrapping up the week on a high note. I have this accountability relationship, let me put it like that, going on, and we've been on for almost a year now. So we meet every week as much as we can. And we go through, okay, what are you working on? What's the challenge? And then we brainstorm together just to help each other see, okay, what's the bottleneck and how can you get unstuck and all of that. And it's been a beautiful journey. But at some point, life was happening to me and my accountability partner. And, sometimes we find ourselves turning these sessions into sessions where we just like blot out, like that's the session where you can just let go and rant and everything. And so we came to a conclusion, like, you know what? We'll never leave this accountability call without ending on a high note. I share that to say that maybe you could resolve to that as well for your week, to say, you know what? I would never let a week end without resolving on a positive note or on a high note, right? And regardless of what's going on in your life, in your business, in your family, your relationship, in your finances, you're just going to come to this point, like every weekend, you're going to count your blessings, right? And see, okay, where are the places where I am falling short and what can I do better next week, right? So I've been doing that with my accountability partner and it's been working for both of us. So I just say all of this to say that I hope you've been having a great week and looking forward to wrapping up the week on a high note. And if your week has been great so far, congratulations. If not, don't worry, I'm sending you love and light and a big warm hug to say, keep it going. Look at the brighter side and just try to see the blessings in whatever situation that you find yourself. So welcome back to Stretch Street Podcast, where we, share stretch stories. And the goal is to remind you that actually, even having a bad week is not exclusive to you alone. Challenges are a general experience we all have. It's just that it's at different timings, at different dimensions, at different depths, right? But we all go through them. But when we assume the posture to say, okay, what is this here to teach me? Why am I going through this? Not from a victim position, but from objectively looking at it like, okay, why did this thing happen? What am I supposed to learn from this? What is life trying to teach me? Then we're able to distill the life lessons and we're able to share those life lessons if we have the opportunity. And that makes us better people and adding value to the society. And so every week when I come here with a new guest, trying to get to know them and having them share their challenging stories to just kind of let us know the lessons that they've learned is always a pleasure and I'm always excited about it. So my guest today is John Vlach, and he's popularly known as John The Video Guy. You should check him out after this episode, all right? John Vlach, popularly known as the John The Video Guy, is a Cleveland-based video editor, videographer, and content creator with a passion for storytelling through visuals. Over the years, he has built a thriving personal brand by offering video editing tutorials, motion graphic expertise, and creative strategies for platforms like YouTube and Instagram. His YouTube channel, featuring over 400 tutorials on Premiere Pro and After Effects, is a go-to resource for aspiring creators. And John also shares his insights on how to grow your personal brand. He's also the host of the Post-Show podcast. We were talking before we started to record and it was like, yeah, he's not publishing content there so much, but he still has it. So you can still check it out and get any, value that he has put up there for you. And one of the things that he's really after is to help people grow their personal brand. And we're going to hear all about how he transitioned from his 9 to 5 to this space where he's now creating videos, teaching other people to create videos, but more importantly, teaching other people to build their personal brand. All right. So don't go anywhere. Sit back, relax, grab your cup of tea, your cup of coffee, or your bottle of water, if that is what works for you, as we get to meet my guest, John Vlach. Don't go anywhere. I'll be right back with my guest.
No matter how dark the night is, the sun always rises. No matter how hard life gets, keep moving forward. You never know what amazing things are waiting just around the corner. No story is too rough and no journey is too tough. Join us on Stretch Street to be inspired by the stories of people who have been through it all and come out stronger. Stretch Street Podcast. Stretching without snapping.
All right. Hello, John. How are you today?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I am awesome. Thanks for asking. How has your week been?
It's been pretty busy. A lot of different meetings, a lot of different video projects I'm working on. But yeah, everything is going really well.
That's awesome. Good to know. Before we go into the conversation, I would like to know, tell me one fun thing about you.
Yeah, one fun thing about me, or it depends if you like this, but one thing a lot of people don't know about me is I'm really into chess. So I like playing chess in my free time. I go to chess clubs, and when I'm not video editing, I'm playing chess. So I'm a big
Oh.
chess player. I don't know. Do you play chess?
No, I don't. It's funny. I'm smiling because just yesterday somebody asked me this question, like, "Do you play chess?" I'm like, "No, I don't." And the person sent to me like a virtual platform, like you can learn it here. And I'm like, "Okay, thank you for sharing, but
Yep.
it's not a
It,
priority right now." But
it
yeah,
it's a fun game. If you have time to learn it, it's a very fun game. Yeah.
I can imagine. I think it's very intellectual as well, right?
Yeah, it's a lot about like patterns and like, recognition, trying to find the right moves,
Hmm.
strategy.
Oh, okay. Maybe I'll look it out. Yeah, I will. I will try to look it out. But yeah, thanks for sharing that. I'm just curious to know, does your hobby in playing chess does it help in any way with your video editing?
That's a good question. I would say it helps me kind of remove myself from video editing or like content creation. So like playing chess for me is more like an outlet or like something I do once I'm done with my work. It's a nice like relaxing hobby, I would say.
All right. That's good to know. Okay, now let's get to meet you. I remember when you filled the form to have this session, you talked about, how you moved from your 9 to 5 to getting into video editing and things like that. So can you tell me what were you doing in your 9 to 5 and why video editing specifically? Why did you choose that path?
Yeah, I think really it goes back to, I want to say high school probably. So, when I was even like a little kid, first learning how the computer worked, I really enjoyed messing around with graphics, taping, things in my backyard, home movies and stuff like that. And I really got into video that way. And when I was in high school, I took a few classes where I learned more about video editing. I did like the school news and like different announcement type of videos. And at the end of high school, I was able to get an internship at the place that I used to work with. And they offered me a part time job, eventually became full time. So I started working full time there, doing all their graphics and videos. And I worked there for a long time. But I think when it comes back to video editing, the reason I got into it is really anything's possible in video. I like the magic of like just creating things, especially something that's raw and original, and just fine tuning it and telling different stories, explaining something is such a very like powerful medium to explore. So that's why I got into video editing.
That's interesting. So, I mean, you are in the job that you were doing, you were actually still doing what you loved. It was still related to video editing, right? So that's great. So, what is it? Because oftentimes, when people do the transition, is either it's like, oh, I'm just doing this job. It's not my passion. It's not what I'm called for. Now I want to transition into what my heart is beating for. So, what was it for you that made you feel like, you know what, this job is not cutting it anymore. I want to go on my own.
Yeah, and that's a good question. I think we all have different experiences. For me, in my personal experience, I was at the place I used to work for around 9 years. So I kind of felt as an employee, I kind of tapped out or like maxed out what I could do there. I started to become a manager where I would hire or not hire, but I would manage other video editors and be kind of like
Mm,
a middle manager. And for me, I didn't mind it. But for me, I felt like the there was more opportunity to start my own business and to really explore creatively on my YouTube channel and build something for myself rather than working for another company.
mm,
I really appreciate the company for giving me the opportunity. I learned a lot there, but I think in my personal experience, I just eventually outgrew the role there.
Right, right. Well, makes a lot of sense. So, what's a major challenge that you faced while transitioning from working with someone to working on your own? Because, sometimes it's a very hard transition because when you're working with someone, even though you're a manager, there is still a lot of shots that you don't call, right? But when you are on your own, like everything is on you now. You have to make a lot of decision. So what were some challenging things that you discovered during your transition, right? And what would you say are some of the lessons there?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing and the biggest difference from like going from employee to like, self-employed or starting a business is like there's no framework essentially, because when you're at a 9 to 5 job, you're so used to showing up, doing the work. That's all you have to do is just do the work and leave.
Mm,
Where when you're starting a business, you have to not only focus on fulfillment, doing the work, but there's like, sales, marketing. You're wearing so many different hats. And I think for me, the biggest struggle was trying to find like time management, because
mm,
like I had to find a way to do all those things or to delegate all those things and to find different areas to do all those different things,
right.
to not only where I'm having sales calls with clients, I also have time for marketing. I also have time for, sending invoices, doing financials. And then I also have time for like, actually editing or doing video work for them. Where before I was just doing video work for them.
Yeah.
So for me, it was just blocking out my schedule. And that's the
Mm,
biggest thing I had to do.
And how were you able to crack that? Because I think time management is one Herculean, challenge that a lot of creatives have. And for you, I feel like you do have the blessing of being in a structured environment first before now moving into your own space. But what I've found, with relating with other creatives who, especially in this era where the gig economy boomed and a lot of people got into that space, maybe straight out of high school or university, and like, what, I just want to do my thing, right? So they didn't have the blessing of working in a structured environment where they understood the importance of reporting, of being accountable to somebody, but they just dive straight into calling the shot, being the person in charge. And so there's a lot of things that is struggled with. So how are you able to crack the code of this time management? Time management is one of the biggest one that I've seen over the years. How are you able to crack that code?
I think basically Google Calendar has been my best friend, to be honest. So what I've done is I dedicated most of my mornings to working on the business. I think there's like two
Mm,
different sectors when it comes
right.
to running a business. Like you either work on the business or you work in the
In.
business. And a lot of
Mm,
people I feel like don't work in. They work in the business. They don't have time to work on the business. So I
mm,
dedicate my mornings typically to working on the business. So I'm doing marketing. I'm doing anything that helps grow the business, whether that's budgeting, anything on the business I'm doing in the morning. And then in the afternoon, that's when I have meetings. That's when I actually work with clients directly and have time for that. Now, what's funny in my business, like sometimes I'm at like video shoots for the whole day. So obviously there's leeway. Not every day is going to be the same. But I think
mm,
it's just still important to have time to, work on the business. And that's like when I do YouTube videos, because for me, my business, I'm a YouTuber and I'm a video editor. So I still need to prioritize YouTube because that does, provide, revenue for my business. And because before I was like, okay, I'll just do videos or make YouTube videos whenever I have time to do that. But I needed
mm,
to shift and make that more of a priority. So that's why I
mm.
started doing that in the morning along with other marketing tasks. So that's pretty much how I shifted it, is like I basically blocked out my calendar. This is when I work on my business, and then this is when I work in my business essentially.
Hmm. I like that. And thanks for highlighting these two parts to business. And I think that's what a lot of people still don't understand, especially small business owners, knowing the difference between working in the business and on the business. And being somebody who has dabbled into that space a little bit myself, I'd say that that working on the business is almost like the boring part of it, especially for creatives, right? Because that's where you get to do the marketing, the
Mm.
sales. Oh, sales is like, oh my God, we're still working on overcoming, the ickiness that comes with the term sales, right? So yeah, I truly appreciate
Mm.
that working on and working in. Okay, now the working on the business, like you said, now for you involved creating videos, YouTube videos, because it is through the YouTube videos that you get clients. Is that correct? That you onboard clients, or how does that work? Because for me, when you said about working on the business, I was looking at maybe the admin part and then the creative part, which actually has to do with the shooting of the video or editing of the video, is what you do later on in the day. Can you just kind of explain more in your own terms or with your own experience what you mean working on versus in the business? Yeah, just because I know a couple of creatives who
Yeah.
listen to my podcast. Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So when I work on the business in the morning, I focus more on the activities that grow the business. So that would be like marketing, sales, and like in those categories. So marketing, my YouTube channel is a big part of that because
Mm,
the more videos I make and the more I can grow the YouTube channel, the more revenue that can generate, the more possible clients that can reach out via my YouTube channel. Same with like social media. So like, if I post on TikTok or Instagram, so I do all social media marketing stuff in the morning. So that involves, YouTube videos are pretty time. I take up a lot of time. So scripting, shooting, editing, doing all
mm,
that in the morning. I'll usually block like an hour a day working on YouTube. So like one day I might script a video, the next day I might record it, the next day I might edit it. I try to get out at least like one video a week.
okay.
And then other things I do in the morning, I usually send a daily email to my email list. So, making sure that you're always, reaching out to your email list, whether, you're informing them about something or just saying hi. I think it's important to keep open dialogue to your potential clients all
Mm,
the time is very valuable. So I usually send a daily email in the morning, as well as reaching out to potential clients. So, whether it's, people that I think might need work, that's really when I go into sales and see if there's any opportunities I can pursue. And
right.
those are the things I do in the morning. Usually financial things I'll do in the morning as well. That way I can get that out of the way before working in the business, because if you it's so different, especially when you're a creative person, like working on like financials and money things like invoices and things, and then okay, now I'm going to do video editing. That I feel like those things have to be separated in the day. So I'll usually do that in the morning. I'll work on
Right.
invoices, profit and loss, all those accounting things in the morning as well. And then in the afternoon, that's when I actually dig into video editing. And I allow my brain the chance to reset and like focus more on the creative side of the business.
Right. Makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. Thanks for clarifying that better and deeper. Now let's dive deep into video editing itself, which is something that you have, can I say you've mastered? Because I saw like your channel intro where you converted your room where you're recording now into your studio, right? And that was really, really interesting. So talking about video editing, I know personally know a lot of young people who are actually interested, like you mentioned, where your interest began as well as a kid, just creating stuff and things like that. So a lot of young people are interested in video creation, plus the buzz on social media where everyone wants to be on the screen, right? What would you say you have discovered to be something that a lot of people misunderstand, especially newcomers in the video editing game or in the video creation space? What are some things that you've discovered that they misunderstand as newcomers when it comes to creating videos?
Yeah, I think when it comes to newcomers, when it comes to video editing, I think it's very there's almost two ways you can go about video editing. I feel like you can either take it as a career or a hobby, and I think both are great because I feel like it's a really good hobby too, just creating videos for fun. But I think early on, like even when I was learning in high school and deciding whether it's something I want to make a career out of. I
Mm,
saw a lot of people like go into it, but let then be like, well, I want to make videos for me. And I feel like if you want to make it into a career, then you have to treat it as a business. And that goes for
mm,
a lot of creative things. I feel like whether it's writing, graphic design, anything in the arts, you almost, if you want to make a career out of it, you almost need to focus and make it into have the business mindset behind it. Because a lot of people will
right.
get started and be like, oh, I like this, but I just want to do this for me. It's okay if I make money from it, but maybe it's just a side hustle. But for the primarily, it's just a fun hobby. So I think if you're starting out, I think it's really determining whether you want to take it seriously as a career, or maybe it's just something that you dabble with. Maybe it's just something for fun that you do. Now, if
Mm,
you're starting your career, what I would say is just trying to get as much reps as possible. Like when I first started, I was, in my humble opinion, I was pretty bad at video editing. I don't know what the company saw in me, but I look back at my first videos, I'm like, man, like, it there's a lot of learning that has to be done at the beginning to become a better video editor, a videographer. So I think just being patient and being open to learning is probably one of the most important things that you can do early on in the early stages.
mm, amazing. I love that. Being patient because there's just a long way to go. I have young people who like they just started, and yes, they want to make it into like a career, and they're so impatient. Like they're like, oh my God, I'm not good at this. And they've just been in it for like what, months. And this is you telling them after being in it for over a decade to say, come on, it takes a whole lot of time. Just be patient with yourself and grow into it. So thank you. So what was it that inspired you to start teaching it?
Yeah. So I think what inspired me to start teaching video editing is a lot of times, like people would ask me, like, how do you do this thing? And I figured it'd be a lot easier to just, maybe make a short tutorial, show someone else how to do it. I think it's very helpful. And this definitely came in very handy at my job because once we started hiring other video editors and interns,
Right.
sometimes they would graduate college, they'd enter, but there's a lot of little niche nuances in the editing software that they never really covered specifically. So I was
Mm,
able to make all these videos, and then when they would ask a question that's very specific to the software, I would be able to send them this quick video. Hey, here's how you can do it. And that's really where I think the most the most benefit comes from in creating like
mm,
tutorial content like that. Even for me,
mm.
like sometimes like I'll make a video, that I did 3 years ago, and then 3 years later I'm like, "Wait, how do I do that?" And then I'll watch my own tutorial sometimes because like, I
Love
can't remember everything.
it.
Especially if it's a specific thing that I do once in a while, I'll go back and reference, even if it's just a small part in it. I'll still go back and sometimes watch my own tutorials. I'll be like, oh, that's where that is, or
I
specific
love
things
it.
like that. But I think it's just because just to help other people have a resource to learn video editing, different things, because no matter how simple it is, it can really help a lot of people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love it. And I can so relate with just doing it and then going back to your own tutorial to say, oof, I forgot how to use that particular software. And should be told is actually very specific to a particular software where you're like, oh, it's been a long time I used this software. I don't even know how where to do this again. Absolutely. So you as a creative person, I want you to speak to other creatives listening to this right now, right? I found a lot of creative person almost work on inspiration, right? So it's almost like I don't feel inspired to do this. I'm struggling with coming up with creative ideas. For you, how do you keep your creative energy flowing, especially when you're feeling stuck? That is, if you ever feel stuck.
Yeah. So I feel like if you're a creative and you're kind of stuck with trying to create something, you have an idea, or maybe you're working on a project and it's just not going the way you are. I think what has worked well for me is just taking a break from it. Sometimes I'll go outside for a walk and just taking your mind out of it, and just like, this is why I like playing chess, kind of going back to that. is you
Mm,
almost need like separation between the work that you're doing, because sometimes you can't see the forest when you're in the trees, if that makes sense, or that type of
right,
saying.
right,
You're too
right.
close to the work essentially. And sometimes, like if I'm in a project, especially a video editing project, I'm like, it's not coming together, or like it's not looking good. At least to me, it's not. Maybe the client would be okay with it, but to me, it's just not there. Sometimes I need to remove myself from the situation. Either,
Mm,
if it's possible, take a break from it, do another activity, and then come back to it later. And it just allows yourself to come up with new, fresh ideas for the project.
right, right. Love it, love it. Tell us a little bit about personal branding from your own perspective, because this is something you're passionate about. Yeah.
Yeah, I think personal branding, it's very important, especially if you're a freelancer, I would say. When you work for a company, they have a brand, but when you go out on your own, you have to think of yourself as a brand, I would
Mm,
say. So kind of like, what's your mission? Why do you do what you do? And for me, I like educating people. I'm really into the education space. I help other people. And I think along with that, you begin to collect or kind of like work with people that work well with you. I think you attract your right customers or clients when you start a personal brand and they can clearly see who you are as a person and
mm,
as a business. You begin to attract the customers that will work best with you, I would say. So a lot of the people I
right.
work with, I really enjoy working with. I think a lot of that has to do with building a personal brand and just sharing with people, who I am, uh, what I'm about. Because when people like watch my videos, they see my content, they get an idea of kind of like who I am as a person or who I am
Mm,
as a brand or a business. And, uh, they begin to like and trust you a little bit more. So I think when it comes down to like sales, it's a nice way to sell essentially without selling, because they already get a chance to see you and kind of begin to like you. And by the time they reach out to you, it's more like, oh, like I've known John from his tutorials, or like I've seen the stuff that he's done.
right.
I kind of like, the way he presents himself and what he stands for. So yeah, I'll have this guy edit videos for me. I think that's what personal branding can do for you or your business.
Hmm. Just so that we make it a bit clearer for especially these newcomers and younger people who are coming into this space. How would you define personal brand? Like how, if you were to define it for them to make them know the element of what they should look out for in building a personal brand, what would that be?
Yeah, I think how to define a personal brand, I would say it's just who you are and what you stand for. I would say at the basic level of like a personal brand is really you. So like you need to be authentic,
Mm,
in your content, what your mission is, what your vision is, because everyone has a different story. So I mean, it, my story is going to be different than the next person's story. When I think of my personal brand, like, one thing we didn't talk about, like I didn't go to college. So like my approach to video editing, content creation is very scrappy. It's very much like, I'm going to get it done type of attitude, where, it's kind of like a grassroots type of feeling, if that makes sense.
mm,
Um, and I think depending on every person's experience and whether they went to college, their different upbringings, their different surroundings, that also reflects on the personal brand. But I think it's a matter of seeing your experience, what you are, who you are as a person, and then trying to communicate that out to the world, whether it's through content, aesthetics, like the way that your content looks, your website looks, and then trying to stylize it and show personal branding. I want to say personal branding is how other people see you, but then you can kind of control that in the content that you create. So if you show yourself in a certain way, then people will believe you and see you in a certain way. So it's just a matter of being true to yourself, I would say.
mm. I like that. I like that angle to it. Like, yeah, it's how people see you, but how much you're able to curate what people see, but still remaining true to yourself. All right, all right. So, whoa, okay. You just dropped that bombshell there. And that's a good one to kind of lean into. I apologize for the network. I'm really hopeful that you're hearing this. Um, but yeah, you just dropped a bombshell there. I want us to go deeper there. You didn't go to college. And I mean, I'm not saying what's the story. Just let me not take it away from you. What's the story behind that?
Yeah. So the reason so yeah, this is a whole thing I kind of breezed through. So when I was in high school, actually, and junior and senior year in high school, they had like a vocational program. So it's kind of like
Hmm.
a tech related, kind of like for vocational career paths where like you could go learn how to become a mechanic, an engineer. And
Mm,
it's kind of like basically like college, but in a high school source. So
hmm.
like junior, senior year, there was a class I took called media technology, and that's really where I learned a lot about video editing. But at the end
Mm,
of that, you know, I was hearing from a lot of other people in the industry as like, do you need to go to college, you know, for
right.
filmmaking or video? And that was the main question, is because I learned so much in that program isn't needed to enter the workforce. And for
Mm,
me, I felt like I learned a lot in that program where I could at least get an entry level job. So that's why I didn't enter into college, because I felt like I had a grasp of everything, but then I could kind of figure out the rest later through, you know, learning on my own.
experience.
And that,
Mm.
like we mentioned, like I mentioned earlier, kind of reflects in my personal brand, because I'm very like, yeah, gritty, like, I'm gonna figure it out. I have that kinda, like, mindset to it, you know? I'm not afraid to break things, that's another thing, like, I'll break it before it gets better type of thing. But yeah, that's why I didn't go to college.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. And I see that and I hear that from your definition of personal brand. Because actually it tells in the content that you create and actually carrying people along in your story. So one thing I want you to kind of elaborate on with content creation, which is video editing, and I think the choice you made is really strategic with using the educational part of it, right? For those people who are almost like going the route of personal story, not particularly tutorial, but like sharing their part of their lives. What would you say? Is there a point where people get to say there is too much sharing, or what are your thoughts around that when it comes to creating videos and sharing your own personal space and things like that? Is there a point you get to where it's like this is too much sharing?
Yeah, I think when it comes to creating your own content, I think you have to add your own personality into it. I feel like the best performing videos, like on my YouTube channel, happen when I show a little bit of myself in them, or like my little
Mm,
quirks and like what makes me me.
mm,
I think having a sense of humor really works well, making the videos more personal, because anyone's, you know, especially in my content, and I'm guilty for this, I do it too. I'll search for like how to do something. I watch the video and it's very transactional. They watch the video, they see how to do it, and then they move on with their lives. They're not looking to
mm.
engage with me a lot of the times. But I think the more that you can show your personality and your content is probably the most important thing you can do as a content creator.
That's a good one. If you could start again from the very beginning, what career advice would you give to yourself about creating or video creation?
Oh gosh. If I could do it all over again, it's interesting because I always think of that question. It's like, if I could do it over again. What's interesting about YouTube is like I always wish that I would have started earlier, because there's always
Mm,
the first mover's advantage when it comes to like, you know, new technology and that. But let's
right.
say if YouTube is what it is now, being more saturated and starting out, I think really starting out, you need to focus more on your personal story and trying to connect with
Mm,
your audience that way.
mm,
Like if I had to restart like my YouTube channel, I'd really focus more on community building. Cause like with the
mm.
search based content, like I said, it's very transactional where a lot of people don't stick around. And it's hard
Right.
to really get people to be like, oh yeah, you know, stick around, you know. But I think the more that you can build content focused around community, the more successful you're probably going to be as a content creator. And as a
Mm,
video editor, I feel like there's more opportunities now. Like when I was in high school, so I graduated in 2015. That's when I
mm,
graduated high school. social media was on the rise, but it wasn't as much as it is now. I feel like right now
Yeah.
there's a lot more opportunity for video editors and video
Mm,
creators. It kind of
mm,
blossomed a little bit. So I feel like there is more opportunity in video editing work, but as a content creator and if you want to become a YouTuber or a content creator, you have to be a little bit more strategic in building a community, I would say.
right. So that's you separating video editing itself and content creation, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
So, and you're saying that with the video editing, there is more opportunity. The more opportunity you're talking about, is it in the creation of the video itself, or the opportunity is connected to the tools that are available now?
I would say when it comes to video editing, there's more job opportunities. Specifically,
Mm.
like when it comes to editing for social media content, there's so many different companies and people that need editors because everyone's starting their own YouTube channel. It's like the gold rush. You know what I mean? Like everyone's going to get gold. And gold we can relate it to like content creation. Everyone's trying to be an influencer, a content creator, a YouTuber.
Mm.
So everyone needs video editors. So there's more opportunity if you want a career as a video editor to edit for different content creators, whether, they're starting out, they're successful content creators. Um, in general, there's more people hiring video editors than probably the possibility of striking gold or like really uh, building a, a content creation business. Not saying that it's
Right.
not possible now, but I think it's a little bit more harder now
Yeah.
because of how saturated YouTube is and content creation in general. You really have
Yeah.
to break through, like I said, in your personal branding and your personal voice, I would say, if you
Mm.
want to really become a content creator, a successful
Mm.
content creator.
Right, right. That's so powerful. Very, very key right there, especially for those who are just coming into this space. So if they're in it for just the lucrative reasons, then they should focus on the video editing part rather than the content creation part. I have a funny question for you. What question, I know you've been on a couple of interviews yourself, but what question have you never been asked before, but you wish someone has asked you in an interview?
What questions have I never been asked before? Oh, wow. That's a good question. I've never been asked that question. Oh, man. Uh, Gosh, I'm not sure. When it comes to content creation or YouTube, I think a lot of people, yeah, a lot of people ask. That means they've asked me, but yeah, I'm not sure. Let's see. I think is it worth it? I think that's a good question because a lot of people they might. I feel like the way this conversation went is like people is gonna they're either gonna choose to become a video editor or a content creation
Mm,
creator, but the thing is you can do both. You can start as a video editor and gain experience because I feel like video editors can become really good content creators because
creators,
you already
true.
know how the inner workings of how video is.
Mm,
But I think the question is it worth it? Like when I started back on YouTube, I grew my channel to over 10,000 subscribers, but it took a lot of work.
mm,
And I think it's a matter of understanding like it's not going to happen overnight. I
mm,
think that's a misconception. A lot of people, get into content creation. They're like, I'm going to make that viral video. I'm going to, my views are going to skyrocket. But sometimes it's just it's a long game. It's like
mm,
you make content day in, day out with, sometimes not a lot of views, not a lot of engagement. And it's just a matter of being consistent.
mm.
But in the end, to me, it's worth it. But to you, you might value different things. Like, it
Right.
might not be worth it for you. But I
Mm,
feel like everyone can try and see if it works for them. For me, it worked. It might not for you. But I feel like
right.
everyone should just at least try it and see if it's for them.
Right. Right. Okay. Thank you for sharing that. Is there any other thing you would like to share that you'd want to leave with us as we wrap up this session?
No, I think we covered a lot about content creation and that. I mean, if people are interested in starting their own YouTube channel, I do have like a worksheet that's free on my website at johnthevideoguy.com. People are
Okay.
interested in starting their own YouTube channel. Feel free to go grab that. You can work through it, kind of, strategize on your own channel. But otherwise, I thought it was a really good conversation. Thank you so much for having me on your show.
Thank you, John. It was a good conversation as well. And yeah, please, I'm going to get the links so that people can check it out because, yes, you've put in the work to grow your channel. There is a lot we can learn from you. And just even looking at your channel alone, it's like a whole resource already on its own where we can learn a lot of things. Yeah, so it gives us an opportunity to even know you deeper in the essence of who you are. So thank you so much for sharing. Thank you for coming out as well to be a part of this show, and wishing you all the best as you continue to give value to your community and grow a community around what you do.
Thank you.
Awesome. All right, guys, this is where we draw the curtain on this episode. I hope that you've learned a lot. I'm going to leave the links to John's YouTube channel and website so that you can go and get the resource that is available to you there, especially if you are interested in video editing, video content creation, or even building your own personal brand as well in the creative space. All right. Get all of that in the show description. Till I come your way again next week with yet another episode. This is the Energetic EJ, and this is the Stretch Street Podcast. See you next week. Bye bye.